Hi, my name is Shaquanda Dalton, and today I'm going to show you my version of how to write a fiction novel. Well, it's not a version, but I'm teaching you how to write a fiction novel. There's a lot of YouTube videos about how to write a novel, how to do this, but it's not always easy to summarize how to write a book because there is fiction books and then there's nonfiction books. And my specialty is writing fiction books. I am the author of 5 fiction books under the Jalen and Jessica series. Um, but that's just me. And I really, really love writing fiction. And it's a real passion of mine. And I want to share what I've learned and how I do it so that it can help you out to write your book. So, well, let's get started. When it comes to writing a book, it's not as easy as it sounds, obviously. Um, I meet people all the time when I talk about what I do and that I write books. They are always like, "Oh, I want to write a book too." Or, which is really funny, they sometimes just tell me a story and have me write or ask for me to write it. I'm like, "Oh no, that ain't how it works." So, you really want to understand why you are writing a book, um, because I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes people want to do it for the money. Sometimes people do it because they got that story inside of them. Um, but you got to realize what is your why, because that's going to be the thing that's going to keep you writing. Because there's going to be a time, maybe tomorrow, when you're just going to be like, you know what, never mind, I'm going to just do something else. Or you're not gonna feel like writing. And that's when you gotta rely on why you do it to keep you moving forward. Um, so you gotta really think about what is the motivator for me. Um, when I wrote my first book, my motivation was I wanted to get this story out. You know, I loved the story I had in my head, and I was like, I really want to share it with somebody. And so that motivated me to get it done. So everybody has a story, but not everybody can write it, which is just the sad truth. Um, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, everybody can write, everybody can learn this skill. Yeah, but doesn't mean that people want to. I mean, I can't draw. I don't want to draw. I don't know how to paint. I don't want to learn how to paint. I surely can't sing. I mean, I guess if I had painting lessons or drawing lessons or singing lessons, eventually I'll be pretty good at it, right? But that doesn't mean I have a passion for it. So, yeah, you can teach anybody how to write a novel, but that doesn't mean that they'll grow a passion for it. And it'll probably be a lot harder for them since they don't have a passion for it. So, yeah, everybody can write, but not everybody can do it well. So, I mean, if you're watching this video, then obviously we are on the same page here. We share the same passion when it comes to writing. Obviously, you're not someone who is not serious about it. Someone who's serious isn't gonna look up a YouTube video on how to write a novel. You know, only serious people do that because they want more information, and that's you. So you you are different just for this taking this step and trying to improve yourself in your writing. So kudos to you. Okay, so let your passion drive you. I mentioned this a little bit ago when I said how my passion drove me to keep writing my first 5 books because I really wanted to get the story out. It's gotten to the point to sometimes where if I don't write, I feel guilty about it. That's how you know you really got a passion about it, when you just can't help but to write your book or to write something. Um, and everybody wants to write, but people give up or they stop or they get distracted. But you got to keep going. You got to be the one to actually finish. You know, no matter what you do when you're done, whether you put in your I don't recommend putting it in your drawer, but you've done something, and you need to let your passion drive you to finish, and not let anything or anyone come in your way, because it's going to be that little voice in your head that tells you to keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, even if you got to change the story idea. You know, you don't want to get too caught up on finishing that book if that book ain't working. Just change the book, change the story, or leave it and come back to it later. Might be even better when you come back to it later. So that's an option too. But you gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta be the one to do it. You know, is this important to you? Honestly, there are a lot of important things going on in our lives. I ain't got kids, but people have kids, people have jobs, people have relationships, other things that are just as important to them as their hobby writing or their job writing. You know, you gotta be honest with yourself. How important to writing this book is it for you right now? If it's not that important, you might not actually be able to have much time for it, but you make time for what's important to you. And writing a book is a commitment. It's hard. If you don't put time in, it's gonna drag on for years if you let it. You know, writing a paragraph here and there every month, that could take forever. But you know, if it's not that important to you, you might not even want to worry about it, because it's a lot of heartache and time that goes into writing a novel, just to end up probably at some point scraping the whole thing because it didn't turn out right. Like, a lot of time goes into it, and if it's not important to you, you might want to think about another way of getting this message across. Because if money is more important and that's why you're doing it, there's other ways to make money online. Trust me, it's a lot better ways to make money. Not better, but they're different ways to make money online that isn't as time consuming as writing a book. That's just the truth. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. And then after that time is done, you still got to have time to edit, and gosh. So if money is the reason you're doing this, go on to advertisement or something, like something else that is not writing a book. Because I'm writing a book because I have to write. Like, I will be unnerved. I would be anxious if I don't write. That's why I write. But for you, it could be that, or it could be something else. So just take a moment to really think about it. But if you decided that this is you, this is what you want to do, this is important to you, let's keep going. Okay, this is the nitty-gritty of stuff. This is when we're gonna get started. It's still a little bit of a mindset of writing your book, but it's a lot more into the actual novel part. So, okay, your audience. Woohoo! When you are writing your book, you want to be aware of who the heck you're writing the book for. For instance, how you may, what your words might say when you're writing a romance might be a little different than when you write a children's book. Mystery, same thing. Mystery versus romance. Those are different people looking for different stuff. So your tone's gonna be different. Your word choice is gonna be different. All these things you want to be aware of when you got these different types of genres. So you want to make sure that you're pleasing them or you're pleasing them. You can't have a generalization, and you can't do both. So, knowing the type of story you're going to be writing first before you start writing could save you some time with having to change it up later when it comes to how you're going to actually write the thing in the first place. Okay. This is the quick tip. Read The best writers are readers. Woo! Um, it seems obvious, but at the same time, it's not. Um, I know this person who is trying to write a book, and I asked him, "What do you read?" or "What was the last thing you read?" And he said he doesn't read. And I'm just like, how can you write if you don't read? How do you know what you like if you haven't read what you like? How do you know what you don't like if you haven't read what you don't like? It's almost like trying to bake a cake if you never had a piece of cake before. How do you know if it even turned out good? Because you never had a piece of cake. Um, so if you want to write romance, you gotta read a bunch of romance books. You gotta find that pattern of meeting the couple, that first kiss, that first sex, that first argument, and then the resolution. Like, that is in every freaking romance book I've ever read. And I love romance. But there's always that weird fight near the end of the book. And there's always that weird moment of that first kiss and sexual tension. Oh my god. The sexual tension in romance books is so weird. And then when you read other books outside of the romance genre, it's like never mentioned. Like they point out weird stuff like their facial hair and for the guy, and then the curves of the woman. Like, it makes it so they make every little thing that character does sexual. But if you then I would read like, I don't know, most of the stuff. Oh well, I read Harry Potter, so I mean nothing in there is really like as sexual as that romance books that I would read. And so it's funny how those genres bring out elements in a story differently than another genre. I haven't read that many mystery books because I don't know, I'm not really into mysteries, but I'm pretty sure they would bring out like little details of stuff, like little stuff on the ground or little people's characters' behaviors. I'm pretty sure they'll pay attention to that. Key things like that. But therefore, if you're writing mystery, read mystery. If you want to write romance, you gotta read. You gotta read that romance. Teen, children's book, you gotta read that stuff. You gotta notice what works and what doesn't work. And, that's gonna be how you make it. Because you'll be able to take. If you read enough, like I've read enough, like I would read some romance books and I'll be like, I don't know why this author put this right here. Man, I wish this author would have went into more details about this part, this scene or whatever. And oh, I love when this author made me feel this type of way. Then you can able to reenact that when you write your own books, or you can change what they did wrong or what you thought that they did wrong in your own book, so that you don't make that same mistake. So that's why reading is important, which is kind of obvious. Oh, right. Outline. Outlining has probably become my favorite thing in the whole writing process. It is so useful. OMG. Like, it is the most wonderful technique ever. Outlining. When you write down on a piece of paper or your computer, laptop, whatever, what happens in chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the end of the book. You'll be able to see your whole novel right in front of your face, and you'll be able to see exactly the highs and the lows, the peaks, the valleys, like everything that's going to happen in your book is going to be right there in front of you the whole time. Do you know how much time that saves when you're not just sitting there blankly at a computer screen just thinking like, what do I write next? How am I going to get them from point A to point B? You save so much time with an outline, and you can do an outline however you want to do it. You can do bullet points, you can do just paragraphs. I like to do sometimes just short sentences just to get the main thing across, because I like to write as I go. And so I just need like little bullet points to just be like, okay, he meets her and invites her to dinner. And that'll be what the chapter's about. And I'll just be like, and I'll have a little creativity. I'm like, okay, he'll meet her at the coffee shop. Well, that's not really creative, but I'm just saying that I can invent ways of getting the goal. But as long as I have my goal written down, that outline, I'll be good. So, whenever you find yourself stuck, look at your outline. Whenever you need to make changes in your book, consult the outline. It is just remarkable. Sometimes I would even change my whole, not change the whole novel, but I would change major parts of the novel. I obviously have to go back and look at the outline because I need to make sure that everything lines up. And it's basically like bullet points for your whole story without having to read your whole story. And it's just so quick. I mean, and then you just, oh my gosh, I can go on now. You save so much time because if you write the outline and then you just be like, oh, you know what? This story ain't even this, that ain't even it. This ain't even what I want. You can scratch the outline without having to scratch out hundreds of pages written down of words that you already typed. You can save so much. So, I know James Patterson, he does the outline. He does paragraphs, which I've tried, which is good. He basically says exactly what needs to happen in that chapter. But you don't have to really go by chapters if you want to. It depends on how your book is written. Like, say if you, like my books are written in parts. So I have the female point of view and I'll have the male point of view as a different part. So the first half of the story is the female point of view part, my main character. And so I would go write my outline and bullet points for her. And then I would switch the outline to his point of view and then have bullets from here. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's just like branch off between hers and his. So you can do bullet points, you can do whole paragraphs, you can do quick sentences, little notes, whatever. And that's also good for notes too. If you got an outline, you can be like, make sure she asks him what his favorite color is in this scene because it's gonna come back later. Like little things that you can write down real fast for your outline. It'll be right there. I don't want to ramble about the outline, but it's very useful. You won't be confused. You have that outline, and everything will be right there. And you can go back and change it later without having to cut out words. So it's a great time saver. Okay, so at this point, you know who your audience is because you know what genre you're writing in. You know how you're going to be addressing these people because they're this certain amount of people. I mean, they're this certain type of people. You got your outline written down so you know your story from start to finish. And if you don't know, take your time on the outline, like really figure out what the story is about because there's no point in starting a story if you don't really know where it's gonna go. You don't want to write yourself into a dead end or to a black wall, to a brick wall, and not have your way out. So that's why the outline is important. So once you have your outline, it's almost time to write, but you want to do your research. So even the most trivial of books story, you want to go do some kind of research. For instance, when I when I wrote my books, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I wrote my books in Chicago, and I've only been there a couple of times. So there was a lot of research that I had to do. Well, not that much because they're both still in the Midwest. So I know it's still touched Lake Michigan, and I know how I know how my beach is. So I'm pretty sure it's similar to theirs. So I didn't really have to do much research when it comes to like writing scenes about the beach. I know it's very heavy traffic wise, so I added some of that elements in there. I've only been downtown, But I'm pretty sure the neighborhood areas are kind of similar to how regular neighborhood areas are in terms of houses and neighbors and stuff like that. I know it's not like how it is in the South where there's big stretches of land before you meet your next neighbor. So I was able to do that, but I did my research. Like some of my characters went to hospitals in Chicago, so I had to research what kind of hospitals are in Chicago. Just anything. When you look at your outline, if your character comes into a cop, you got to see what the protocol is. So you might not have to go to the police station and ask questions like that, but because you might be able to find something online. I would say to find out as much as you can online first before you have to get out on the streets. The streets. I remember when I was writing my second book, I had to. Okay, there was this scene in my. There, okay, my character was trying to take a pregnancy test, and I was trying to see where she can go to find a private pregnancy place to take a not pregnancy test, but to take a where the test that you take to see who the baby daddy is. She was trying to get one of those done, a paternal test. And so I went to the hospitals in Milwaukee trying to see like, okay, do you go to a hospital to take this? And or do you do this? And I was just talking to like nurses, and they thought I was a patient. Like, I mean, they thought that I needed to have the test done myself because I was asking these questions, which was fine. Like, I corrected like a lady, and then she would send me to somebody else. Like, I corrected her and saying that like, no, I'm trying to write this book, and she'll send me to somebody else for help. And then there was this like, I remember there were being like three people just looking at me with just such sad eyes, and and I wanted to tell them no, it's not me, but I felt like they would help me more if they really thought it was for me, so I didn't say anything. So that was kind of funny. They was really looking out. They wanted to reach their hand out and just help me, and I'm like, no, no, it's not for me. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, yeah, I do. Well, I do need the information, so they wouldn't believe me if I said it was for a friend anyway. So I didn't even say nothing like that. So that's an example of having to go out there and get your own research and just do what you got to do. Like, even if you got to talk to friends or family to find something. Like, I know, like, my cousin, he got locked up for a while, and the book I'm writing right now, I was like, hey, so how does this whole going in front of the courthouse works? What time do you gotta be there? What they gonna do to you? I mean, not what they gonna do to you, but like, how does that whole process work of serving time and going and meet in front of your courthouse and judge and lawyers or whatever? And he would tell me. That's how I knew I would get the information right, or at least be somewhat believable than just making it up. You know what I mean? Because even if it's fiction, you want to have it believable, unless it's straight out fantasy, which is something that I can't even write. Like, I never attempted to write fantasy. It's something that is world building. You got to make a whole world, and that's really crazy. But you can make up your own rules, which is good. But anywho, there's foundations of things that you want to stick to, and you got to do research. What I like to do sometimes, I like to kind of get the information as I need it. So you can get the information before you write, or you can get the information as you're writing, like kind of like what I need to do, like, because sometimes stuff will come up that I would never even think of. And I'm like, I want to add this scene. Ooh, how would I know about this? Like, and then I'll have to do my research. So I think as long as you get in there doing the first draft at some point, then it'll be fine. It's up to you. It's really no get in the beginning or get in the middle, like, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if it's all in that first draft anyway, right? So, yeah. Originality. I just want to talk about this because it's been something that's been on my mind. When you look at the core of every story that's been told, it's a lot of repetition. Even in the classics, not the classics. I keep saying the word, I'm sorry. The story has been told over and over again. And it's about what you add to it that makes it unique. Not because they're already been told before. Like, for example, Harry Potter. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. But come on, he's an orphan raised by people who do not like him or treat him badly. That sounds pretty Cinderella-ish to me. So it's not that I'm saying that she was copying from Cinderella. What I'm saying is the idea of an orphan kid or child being raised by people that hates to end up having a better lifestyle later has been done before. So don't be hard on yourself when you think like, oh, no, that's been told. Blacks delete, delete, delete. Like, no, don't do that. You know, what you add to it and what you do to make it different is going to make all the difference in the world. Like, everybody knows how to cook chicken. But how I cook chicken and how you cook chicken, or how I cook a cheeseburger or my macaroni and cheese, is gonna be different from how you make it, how your mama make it, how my mama make it. It's gonna be different. It could be the same food, but it's gonna taste different. Seasoning, toppings. I don't know if I'm hungry right now, but what I'm saying is the core, even if the core, the main ingredients are the same or the goal is the same, how you make it and your intake on it and your input on it is going to make it really what it is. That best cheeseburger you ever had, baby. So don't hamper about it not being like as original as you thought it could be or wanted to be. Because most likely, after all, the story has been told before. Like for example, two teenagers falling in love that shouldn't be in love. Don't that sound pretty Romeo and Juliet? No, that's Twilight. You see what I'm saying? Like it's the same idea, but it's told in a different way. You know, Edward is not supposed to fall in love with a human, and Bella sure as heck not supposed to fall in love with a vampire. They were supposed to be apart, but they fall in love, and it's that forbidden love story. Like, how many forbidden love stories can you really think of at the top of your head right now? A lot. Starting with Romeo and Juliet. Well, I don't know if Romeo and Juliet was the start. I'm just saying that that's pretty old. It's an old story. So, dating back since then, at least. And then there's that story where the couples don't like each other at first, you know, and then all of a sudden they fall in love. How many times have we seen that in movies today or in books today where that happens? Or in mystery books where it's always the first person in that first chapter that you don't really think about again. I mean, think about Scooby-Doo. That's every freaking, like, episode of Scooby-Doo. It's always the guy in the beginning. So, originality, do what you do, make that story the best it can be, and just work with it, you know? It's your story for a reason. Woohoo! Let's just get this first draft started. Okay, so the first draft is the first draft. The first draft. I want to stress that you don't have to stress out about it. Let the first draft be the first draft. Finish the first draft. It's not that easy, you know, but it's not that hard. I mean, when you think about what it allows you to do, you can type, you can make mistakes, you don't have to check spelling, grammar, you can do all that later. Just get that first draft done. And I know people like to polish as they go, which is a time waster, to be honest. And I know that is just my opinion, but honestly, I can't tell you how many times where I would chop off 2 or 3 chapters. And just think about if I went back and spent hours trying to make those the best, prettiest little punctuation corrected chapters ever, and then having to cut. That would hurt so much. So I don't worry about that until I'm really, really sure I'm actually going to keep that chapter. If I'm going to keep that scene, if I'm going to even keep that character's point of view right there. Anything could change. So to make something pretty before it's even final is a waste of time. Once it gets final, then okay, we can go in and polish it, make it better, make it glitter, make it gold, pretty it up. That's cool. But it's just hard to make something nice when even if you don't even think you're gonna go back and change it. You might think, oh, I'm definitely keeping this part. This is the gold piece right here, which may work, which may not. You might finish that first draft and be like, you know what? I got a better idea, which is better than that other one. Ooh, but it's so pretty though. I made it sparkle and shine. Look at all these punctuations, all pretty and set in there. Like, ooh, and then you're torn. So it's like, no, don't make it pretty until you know for sure you're gonna keep it, and you're not gonna know until after you get the first draft done and you look at it, you print it out and you look at it and you say, okay, am I gonna keep all this? Do I need to add something? Do I need to take something away? Oh, can I make this scene better? Could I add another element to this that's gonna make it thicker, make it more layered, make it go in depth more? And that's when you even add more words, period. Even if you even want to keep everything on there, you may still end up adding stuff that would make you even have to just repolish that whole first chapter again. So just keep in mind that as you write this first draft, that you want to write this first draft, because you don't want to be the reason you're stopping yourself. Trust me. I don't even want to go down the tunnel of perfection and stuff like that, but just get it down and then edit. That's pretty much the bottom line there. Woohoo! Dialogue is my favorite thing. I feel like I'm pretty darn good at dialogue. That's what my classmates used to say to me in college. That I write pretty good dialogue. Okay, so I'm going to show you my dialogue tricks and techniques right here, right now. Talk to me. I'm trying to say that characters who they're talking to it really makes a difference it makes a difference with what they're gonna say and how they're gonna say it. For example, if the main character is talking to their parent, they're not gonna probably use the same tone and dialect that they're used to talk to their friend, are they? Or a child, or their boss. Um, so you gotta let that dialogue reflect that. It has to sound natural. I don't know what this is, but this is natural. Well, okay, and then you also want to consider their personalities too. If you got a guy who curses a lot, you know, that's what's gonna be in that dialogue, a lot of cursing. But if he's talking to his pastor, you need to reflect. You know what would be a good trick for that? If he's talking to somebody he's not supposed to be cussing around, you can have him almost curse, and you can see half the cuss word, and then be like, have him say, "Oop, I mean," and then comma, and then the have him say "darn" or "darn it" or something like that. Like it wouldn't be the cuss word; it'd be like a replacement for the cuss word. Like little things like that to show that he is trying not to curse because he's a cursor, but he's talking to a pastor. But if his personality is a I don't give a F kind of guy, maybe he wouldn't even care. So maybe he'll just keep on cussing. So that's where personalities take place too. Setting, tone. What I mean by setting for dialogue, I mean if it's storming outside and your character's out there trying to weather a storm, they're not gonna talk calmly or as if they got tired all the time in the world. They're gonna be talking like they really want to run inside and get dry or something like that. So depending on how the weather is and the setting is, the dialogue is going to reflect that. So you could probably put a lot of exclamation points or something, just something that'll help reflect their situation. Like if they're in an auditorium in a classroom, for example, you want to use words that are well, you want to make it clear that they're whispering. But somebody who's in a classroom talking to their friend that they're not supposed to, they're not going to talk in long paragraphs. They're going to say quick words really fast. What did you say? What do you want? Look at that. Look at her. Like they're gonna say quick things. They're not gonna have a long, oh, I cannot wait to begin on lunch break. This teacher is making me mad. La la la. Like they're not gonna do that. They're gonna be like, look what she's wearing. Look at her. I wanna go. I'm tired. They're gonna say quick things because their setting is a classroom setting and they're not supposed to be talking, so they don't want to get caught talking. When it comes to tone, I like to think about romance. I think that's the best example I can give. If a guy is trying to romance a girl, he got her in a place, they're in front of a fireplace on a rug. He's trying to set the mood, and he's gonna talk differently to her in a tone that's gonna be like, "So, baby," like he's gonna try to sound smooth. Um, he's not gonna be loud saying random stuff. So the setting and the atmosphere that the character is in is gonna reflect their dialogue because it always and you just gotta be aware of it and really take a second to think. Put yourself in that situation. Would you really talk like that? Have you seen people talk like that? If you have, you have. I think that's kind of weird. But I think I got the gist of that out there. Character development. This is more of an overall story kind of thing. Basically mean how your character mindset is at the beginning. Like, well, what can I mean by that? Like, it's sort of like, I never saw, Star Trek or whatever, Star Wars, whichever one Luke was, where he started off that journey and then met Darth Vader. But he had to, like, how he was from the beginning isn't how he ended up in the end. Like he grown, he changed. And you need to make sure that your character changes, whether they learn something or they mature, like a coming of age story. Basically you want to see how a character you can look at the character from the beginning, like, I know this is the beginning because he ain't acting like how he did it near the end. Think about Harry Potter when he was 11 years old trying to do his first spell, and think about him in the last book and how he's quick on his feet and sure of himself. Well, he still had doubts, but he was more sure than when he was 11. Like you can see the change in that character, and that's what you want your book to reflect. The readers need to see clearly. Okay, he went from A to B to C to D to E, and now he's at F, and he's great. Because that matters. Personalities. What can I say about that? Because I kind of really mean it more in a in-depth look into your characters. I said before how like personality can affect dialogue. It's gonna obviously affect their development because a serious person is gonna develop differently than a goofy person. Not that one's better than the other, just how they are. So you want to just be aware of your character's personality and work off with the other personalities in the story. If you can get like the perfect mix of personalities together in one story, that would be like the best story ever because it can all that conflict and personal relationship conflict working with each other. It's just great. That's how come some movies have weird combinations of partners for some reason. Like I guess it's more in cop movies where there is like a serious cop and then a rambunctious trying new things newbie cop. Um, that there's add that chemistry, that adds that conflict, and so you want to be aware of what kind of personality your main character has, and put them up against people with different personalities that could counteract against your characters, just to make it interesting. You know what I mean? Just to make it fun. Let's talk about the ending of your book. When I say your story has to have two endings, what I mean is you go through your arch and your climax, and when you get to the resolution of the story, when the problem is solved, the villain is defeated, or what have you, then your characters have to have their ending. What happens after they defeat the villain? What happens next once they solve that initial problem? When that's over, then your characters have to have their happy, well, it doesn't have to be a happy ending, but what happens to your characters now? The dragon is slain. Now what? That's the end of one story, but what does King Arthur do now? King Arthur. Um well, I don't know how the rest of that story goes. I think he becomes, I don't know, something Lancelot or something like that. What I'm saying is, once the problem is solved, you you have to give your characters an ending of what's next to them too, because you want your readers to be able to predict a little bit of what's going to happen next with them. Not like every single detail to the day your character dies, but you want to have them have an idea. For instance, with the story of Cinderella, like, she married the prince. The kids get an idea that, okay, she's gonna live as a princess in this castle with happily ever after, right? So she met him, she married him, problem solved. She's out of that house of the evil stepmother and stepsister. That's done. She's free, you know. But she has her ending with this forever ever after. So you you got to make sure you solve the problem, but you want to make sure you give your characters their resolution as well. So you're taking care of one ending and you're taking care of this ending. Hopefully, I explained that well. But please leave questions in the comments if that part was like a little hard to understand. But you just want to make sure that you conclude your characters just as well as you conclude the problem in the story itself. When it comes to actually finding the time to write, you gotta look at your life schedule and figure out when you can fit this in. And then that kind of goes back to how important the story is to you, how much writing it is, how much important writing is to you right now in your life right now, because you make time for what's important to you. So, use you can either create your schedule to write, or you can work off your work schedule, or you can do, okay, an hour before I go to sleep, or an hour right before I wake up. Like, you want to say, okay, what time can I sacrifice? Because I'm not in school. I already graduated, but I do work full time. I'm a night owl. I like to write at night, and that's what I do. I don't like to write in the mornings for some reason. I just can't. But I procrastinate a lot. And I think what I realized was that I I thought I procrastinated a lot. I just realized that I actually just work better at night, and that just ends up being at the end of the day, and that's just how it is. Your outline can help you because you'll know exactly how much you want to write in a week based off how many more chapters you got to go. So if you got 20 chapters, and you say I'm gonna do a chapter a week, that's 20 weeks. Like, okay, cool, cool, cool. Couple months. Or you can be like, okay, I'm gonna get 2 chapters done a week. Okay, 10 weeks. And like so on and so forth. So you can use your outline to help you, even if you gotta just write a paragraph or a chapter or a page a day to get your goal. But you want to figure out what works for you. If you write every day, eventually you'll be able to write faster and faster each day because your brain will be trained to write. Like, it'll get used to it. Just like any exercise program, any diet, anything like that that your brain got to get used to. It'll know exactly what it's doing when it's finishing up that story when you go back to it. So, it'll be all right. Okay, woohoo! It's okay to change your mind. Okay, this is kind of more towards having the first draft done a little bit. I just want to say that if you got to go back and change the beginning or change a scene or a chapter, that's okay. I actually wrote I actually wrote a whole book, 15 chapters done. I wrote the words "the end," and then I looked at it and I was like, I don't like it, and I started over from scratch just like that because I wasn't afraid to change my mind about it. Like, I didn't want to put it out there because it wasn't the best I thought it could be. I didn't make any edits on it. Like, I went through it one time and I was like, I don't like this, and I was just like, no. So I knew it wasn't worth it because I ended up changing the characters itself. So that's a rewrite all in itself. I changed the genre of the book I was writing, so that's a 100% rewrite right there as well. Everything about that book I changed, and I couldn't take out a scene. I couldn't add a chapter. There was nothing I could do to mend it. I had to literally start over. But it was okay. Like, it actually felt better than worse. Like, I thought, oh, I gotta start over again. I thought it was gonna be bad, but actually, when I started over, I was glad I did it because if I didn't do it, I would have been settling. And that's why it's okay to take out a scene or change a story altogether or add a chapter because you're making it better. You're not settling. Don't settle just because you're feeling like lazy. And that's the god awful truth. Like, don't feel lazy and just put out anything out there because you don't want to rewrite again. Just think about, like, this is your name. Your name is behind this. You gotta stand behind your work, and if you say I wrote this, you need to be proud of it. So that's why I rewrote my book. That's why I didn't put it out there. I know I haven't published in like a year at this point. It's almost been a year, and I could have had it out sooner, but I wasn't gonna do it. Not with that story. That story was like, I don't know what that story was. And it had a beginning of, it had all the way down to the end, 15 chapters gone. Like, and I don't regret it at all because now I'm done writing the first draft to the book I'm actually finna be putting out, which is the rewrite of that book, which is an urban fiction novel that is so much better than that one. So don't be afraid to go back. Do what you gotta do. Just do what you gotta do. You know what's gonna make it better. So don't be afraid. And part of being a writer is just you're gonna spend a lot of time redoing stuff, redoing stuff, redoing. You can't get afraid of that. So that's just what it is. Okay. I think I talked a little bit about this one in an earlier slide. About setting a goal and finishing it, and about using your outline to help you finish and get the draft done. So what I do is I look at the outline. Okay, like, oh, actually, what I do is I use word count. I really don't know how long a chapter itself is gonna be, but lately it's been about 2,000 words a chapter. So I kind of just do like 2,000 words a day until the book's done. then I can, cause I don't know how long a chapter is gonna be. Normally a chapter doesn't take me a week to do a chapter because I write 2,000 words a day, so it takes me like a day and a half, depending on how long the chapter ends up being. It took me 2 months to write this, my last book, and that came to about 55,000 words. So I think the quickest way would be to just use your outline and to predict, okay, how long will it take me to write this chapter? Oh, okay, it's gonna take me 3 days. Okay, 3 days times how many chapters I got. Use that system of figuring out. Just start by how long will it take you to take a chapter. Then you can figure out and calculate how long it'll finish you to write your book. And then leave a little extra space just because, you got birthdays, you got you got holidays, you got vacations, you got days when you just ain't gonna do nothing. No matter how pretty it is that day outside, like, it's that day you just ain't gonna do nothing. That's the truth. Which I ain't ashamed to admit. I have those every other week. Every 3 days I get those days where I just don't want to do anything. But when you set your goal, then at least you know what you're trying to aim for, and you have something to aim for, and you're just not like mindlessly, I'll finish when I finish. Because you ain't gonna finish. You ain't. So, woo, you're done. Oh my gosh, you're done. Honestly, when you finish that first draft, celebrate, because people don't make it that far. People say, "Oh, I'm gonna write a book." They'll sit down, they'll write probably one chapter, never look at it again. So if you finish your first draft, that is a reason to go buy yourself an expensive dinner or something. Like, treat yourself. It's a big deal. And you will finally have something accomplished. You will be able to print it out, hold it in your hands if you want to, like you're done. You might have a gazillion misspelled words in there. Grammar, police just having a fit, whatever, but you're done, and you can go back and edit it. You can take your time, you can do this, that, whatever you want to do with it, but you'll be done with that first draft. And it's just, have you ever just had an assignment in class where they say, okay, write this 2-page, 5-page paper, and then when you finish writing it, you just, oh my god, oh, I'm done. Oh, I could have been did this. Or if you're like me, I'll be done at 3 o'clock in the morning the day of. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is, it's a relief when you're done with the paper. When you're done with the book, when you're done with the paper, when you're done with anything. And it's reason to celebrate, even if you still got stuff to do. So what's next? Editing. I don't want you to think that when you're done writing that first draft that it's ready to be put on sale or anything like that, or to give to your friends or family. You need to take your time and go through it and edit. I do talk about that more in the video I made called How to Edit Your Novel. If you want to check that out, I will post the link below. But in the meantime, that's what's next. You have to edit. That's the next step. Considering if you're done adding scenes and stuff like that. But that's actually part of the editing phase when you're looking at it from an objective point of view. If you need to take a couple of weeks to detach yourself from it so that you'll look at it with new eyes, do what you gotta do. But editing is what's next. Yeah, I talked about this. The video of how to edit your novel is going to be in the link below. And I want you to enjoy that video. And thank you so much for watching. If you like, you can subscribe to me to watch more videos. I also blog at learnasyouwrite.com. I talk about creativity, dialogue, and character development. But thank you so much for watching. Happy writing. Bye.